Shalom, shalom. All praises, glory, and honor be unto Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Rakakadash. All right, double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS, our teachers and leaders, the teachers and leaders of all Israel, in fact. Salutations to my fellow Akim, my brethren, the confusion of face Akim, my fellow laborers that are doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. All right, to the Akwath, as a matter of fact, to the hopeful elect that are listening and learning. To you, I say shalom. What you're looking at on the screen is a young lady. Her name is Sydney Watson. And the name of her video is Why You Need to Care About Racism, Ignoring White Genocide. Once again, why you need to care about racism, ignoring white genocide. Okay? So let's start this with a scripture. And I'm going to read Isaiah 33:1. Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. And that is what you're witnessing in South Africa. All right? And around the world, indeed. Because there are lots of things happening to these Edomites worldwide. They're not reporting on it. And one of the reasons why they're not reporting on it, because they don't want to look weak to the rest of the world, but they are. They want to give the illusion that they're still in control and they're still in power. And the fact is that the curses are now starting to fall on them. They played the role of the whooping stick. They were that red horse that took peace from the earth. Let's get that. This is Revelation 6:4. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. And with that sword, by rape, robbery, murder, and treachery, the Edomites took the whole known world. By rape, murder, robbery, and treachery. And now it's being done unto them, and even their own people aren't helping them. All right? It's like the South Africans are being left to fend for themselves. All right, so let's play some of her video.
Pastime ever is listening to the left screech. Like ever. So last week, Australia's Immigration Minister Peter Dutton was called racist by the Australian Greens Party because he suggested fast-tracking refugee visas for white South Africans. I can't even begin to articulate how disgusting it is that Australia has so little interest in helping persecuted whites. It is amazing, absolutely amazing to me that the average Australian citizen has no say in who comes to this country as a refugee or as an immigrant. And yet somehow when we have an issue with that, we are called racist or xenophobic. Yet here we are, presented an opportunity to be able to give asylum to people who actually assimilate, who speak the language, who have the same kind of cultures and customs as Australians do, and that's racist as well? Are you serious? Seriously, beam me up, Scotty, because there is no intelligent life down here. The overall hatred that is socially acceptable in 2018 towards white people is appalling. And I am so sick of it. The truth is, the conflict in South Africa has been going...
And see, the reason she feels that, because they do not want to acknowledge their past and how they got South Africa, how they got Australia, how they got America, how they took over Hawaii, right? How they have military bases in all these countries where they really truly aren't welcome because of military might, and the fact that they control the sources, the resources in these countries. The people deal with them, and for no other reason. All right, the nations of the world are truly tired of the Edomites.
on for decades, and it's been escalating over that time period.
White men, understand, all of you must die.
In my own
And that is the sentiment that a lot of people feel towards them. Now, you got people who are really paying the pacifists that are like, they don't want to have anything to do with it. But yet at the same time, just in conversations I've had with different heathens, they're like, well, you know what? I guess it's kind of like about time. And basically this is you reaping what you sow. It's coming down upon them. And one of the main reasons why this isn't being talked about in the mainstream media here in America, at least, I can't speak for the European countries, but here in America, this isn't really being pushed in America. Why? Because the most racist and hateful of Esau, Edom, their stronghold, is here in America, and they do not want to be perceived as weak. They want the illusion that they're still in control, and they're not.
Personal life, a number of years back, a close family friend's son was shot in the head standing on his own property in South Africa. He was young and he was white, and there was no motive for the event. But he is just one example of the tragic events coming out of South Africa today.
Like the scripture says, whoever died being innocent, and then it answers you the question, and it says no one. I believe that's in Samuel, if I'm not mistaken. So no one dies innocent, even a small child, man. If a child dies according to the scripture, that's just judgment, because judgment is played out here on earth according to the scriptures, not according to my words. All right, you go to the spirit world, you go before the judgment seat, and then the Lord sends you back down here in the flesh, and you live out that judgment. So we're about to hear a horrific judgment. Now, mind you, I don't condone what you're about to hear. But what all I'm saying is that it's divine justice from on high, whether you like it or not. And some people are going to be offended by that. All right? Well, because if you believe in the Bible, then you need to go and seek out the scripture that I read. As a matter of fact, before I even play it, let's get a scripture to substantiate what I said to you unlearned people. All right? This is one that I easily remember. This is Isaiah 45:7. And this is the Most High Yahweh speaking himself. It says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Okay? So the Lord creates evil, and he creates the light. So when judgment is passed, the Lord allowed it to happen to you. Let's listen.
Let's begin with a 3-year-old girl being raped by 4 men. And as the post-mortem autopsy revealed, she survived that rape. A 3-year-old girl. She survived. So her attackers, her rapists, these grown men, bundled her up in newspaper, poured gasoline on it and set it alight. That's how she died in the end. Or a 4-year-old girl, crucified to her parents' farmhouse's kitchen table, and then raped by 3 men, while her mommy and daddy lay gurgling in their own blood on the kitchen floor.
Now, I blame the parents for the death of their children, because they never should have been there. They were on stolen land. All right? Quite frankly and simple. All right? So before you get all, I can already see the scoffs. This is going to be a very controversial video. But this is an insert from the book A Hidden Heroism. All right? A Hidden Heroism, page 11. And the author of this book is Robert B. Egerton. He's Jewish. All right? And it's about the hidden heroism, black soldiers in America's wars. So here are slaves who were taken against their own will, oppressed, and then fighting for their enemy. Okay? Well, let's read. This is from page 11. All right? In 1789, for example, 2/3 of the West Indies slaves were African born. All right? They were born in Africa, but they were not from Africa. They were from the land of Israel. Right? We've already proven that point, and there's way too much history to prove it, that that's where they came from. All right? Unruly West Indian slaves could be flogged savagely, even and killed, but given the shortage of slaves, sublethal punishment was much preferred. For example, an English Jamaican plantation owner named Tom Thistlewood have been harvesting. He ordered, Salaki, it says, recorded in his diary that after a slave ate some sugar cane he should have been harvesting, he ordered the man flogged, bound in a prone position, while another slave was ordered to shit in his mouth. And as far as a senior student of West Indian slavery could judge from the Thistlewood diary, the man did not appear to have been a sadist. Similar forms of brutal and degrading punishment were common throughout the Caribbean. Okay? It says, among the thousands of Scottish soldiers taken prisoner by Oliver Cromwell, but the majority were described as dirty, lazy, rough, ignorant, lewd, or often criminals. So many hardened criminals were indentured to North America colonists that Benjamin Franklin sarcastically declared that the colonists should repay the mother country for her generosity in sending over every criminal short of murders by, and these people that he's talking about were Morenos, so-called black people, the black inhabitants, the original, well, I won't say the original, but the inhabitants of Scotland after the fall of Rome. Cromwell was getting rid of the Negroes in Scotland and sending them to the islands and sending them to the Americas. Okay? That's what Cromwell was doing. All right? Also, once again, proving that the Northern and Southern Kingdom were in slavery together. All right? And that, you know, because those islands were full of Northern Kingdom first until they damn near killed them all off from slavery and selling them, importing them back over to Seville, Spain. All right? Now I'm going to go to Bartholomew de las Casas' book. All right? This is Bartholomew de las Casas, an account much abbreviated of the destruction of the Indies with related texts. And this was edited by Franklin W. Knight, translated by Andrew Hurley. Okay? So, this is page 39. The Spaniards went to villages where the poor people were working at their labors, and their wives and children their wives and children safe by, and they ran through them with spears and hacked them to pieces. And to a very great and powerful village there came its people more careless than others, and thinking in their innocence that they were safe. And the Spaniards entered into a space of 2 hours and almost razed them to the ground, putting children and women and old persons to the sword, slaying as many as they could, who, though fleeing, did not escape. And when the Indians saw that even with so much humility of offerings and patience and suffering, still could not break or soften such inhumane and bestial hearts, and so without appearance of color or reason, and indeed so perfectly contrary to it, they were hacked to pieces, and seeing that they were to die for no cause, and in the twinkling of an eye, they agreed to meet and join together and die in war, taking vengeance the best they could upon such cruel and hellish enemies. For they well knew that not being just unarmed, but naked on foot and weak against people so fierce on horseback and so well armed, they could not prevail, but to the end they would be destroyed. They invented some holes in the middle of the roads in which the horses would fall, and their innards could be pierced with the sharp, hardened stakes driven into the bottom of the horses, in the bottom of those holes, which have been covered with grass and weeds, so that they might appear to be not there. But only one time or two did horses fall into them, because the Spaniards learned to guard against them. But to take vengeance, even for this, the Spaniards made it law that all Indians of any sex and age might be taken alive, would be thrown into the holes, and thus pregnant and nursing women and children and old persons and others that they might take, they would throw them into the holes, even unto the pit were filled, and the Indians were pierced through by the stakes, which was a sore thing to see, especially women with their children. All the other Spaniards slew them with spear and lances and knives and threw them to the savage dogs that tore them to pieces and ate them. So they would wound these people and throw them to the dogs and let the dogs rip them to pieces, the young and the old. And he's complaining about something. All right. There's a scripture in the law of the Bible which says eye for an eye. Okay. So now what you're witnessing, as horrible as the story was that this Edomite told, which I don't even know is true or not, because Esau is very, very famous for fabricating lies and then pushing them forth into the news and the media and making them true when they're not. All right. But this is just simply the curses beginning to fall upon the Edomites, man. Let's go to Jeremiah. I know Deuteronomy 30:7, I believe it is. 37. Yes, and it says, and Yahweh thy power will put all these curses upon all thy enemies, and on them that hate thee, and which persecute thee. All right. So now the rape murder victim was actually the perpetrator. You know, in this sense, the hunter is becoming the hunted. All right. And I'm telling you, the sentiment that these South Africans are displaying toward these Edomites is the spirit of most people of the world. And that thing is going to grow and fester. All right. Because there are going to be race riots here in America and around the world. And it's setting off. They're setting it off in South Africa. Okay. Let's play a little more.
These things happen in South Africa, and they're not isolated incidents.
And you know what? The media is either radio silent or downplaying what is happening.
And the reason why is because the pride of Esau, Edom. The pride of Esau, Edom. Because in their pride, they don't want to know that they're being defeated, that they're going down, and they are going down. All right? The Edomite male is not the hot thing anymore. Truth of the matter, he never was. He just wielded all the power and the money, and, women flock to power, man. But as I've done in previous lessons, especially in that one that, what is it called? How the Edomites became white people. They even in the white women were the so-called white women were choosing to be with men of color, even if it meant that they had to be in slavery with them. That's why they created those laws, and in 1681 created that terminology white, and they've been calling themselves white ever since, because that started in the Americas and it spread worldwide. They created a race to put themselves on top, all right, and then they created social sciences, pseudosciences, and Darwinism, all right, and mixed it all in with the Bible and religion, and voila, you have the white race. All right. And the proof that they do that is every time you see anything biblically that's displayed in literature, you always see pale faces as the people of the Lord, which is a lie.
So can I just get like a show of hands of everybody who thinks if we report on South Africa that we're, going to go against the narrative that all white people are evil? Is that looks like everyone. Okay, good. Even worse is what's happening online and in social media spheres where people think it's funny and humorous what is going on in the country at the moment.
See? So it just goes to show you. I let you right out of the horse's mouth. It's not me saying this. This is the world speaking the sentiment toward Esau, Edom by the nations of the world. All right? The so-called Arabs, the so-called Asians, the Hamitic people, the people in the islands, all these places where these Edomites dwell, man. It's going to be a slaughtering ground wherever they dwell. All down in South America where they live in the best neighborhoods, down in Brazil, where all the Jakes and the favelas and all the Edomites are living in the great parts, man. This gonna their walls are gonna get penetrated, man. It's gonna be a lot of blood flowing worldwide, man, because that's the time that we live in as we're working our way up to this World War III. This Third World War is about to happen. The crash of currencies around the world. All right. behind the petro yuan and the nations that are joined on to Russia and China, man. All right, let's get one more incident. I actually read this in the last video. I'm going to read it again. This is on page 26 of the Black Indians, a hidden heritage, the Black Indians, okay, of William Lorenz Katz, which I am from that heritage. All right, this book is literally about my people, about the tribe that I came from. Okay, I'm going to read page 56 first. It said, to disrupt racial alliances, U.S. officials promoted slavery among the Seminoles. Of the 5 civilized nations, only the Seminoles rejected the kind of slavery, and that goes back to Reuben. Because of what? Because of his nature, man. All right? Reuben was too upright to do that. All right? It says only the Seminoles rejected that kind of slavery the U.S. wanted. Wealthy Creeks who owned their riches to slave labor, who went to persuade Seminole chiefs to become slave masters. Whites and Creek Indians were encouraged to raid Seminole villages for slaves. Free Seminole men and women were carried away off and sold into southern slave markets. Why? Because a lot of them look like Negroes. Okay? Because of the interracial marriage and the breeding. The Seminole men were making babies with the Negro women. And according to the Bible, you are who your father is, period. All right? And vice versa. Some of the slaves actually entered into marriages with the Seminole women, thus creating among the Seminoles, a group of the Seminoles called the Black Seminoles. Okay? But let's go back to page 26 in the same said book. This is page 26. It says, Christopher Columbus, whose unique seamanship and courage had opened up the Americas to European penetration, began the transatlantic slave trade. He started by shipping 10 chained Arawak men and women to Seville, Spain. He wrote enthusiastically to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella about the business possibilities. From here, in the name of the Blessed Trinity, we can send all the slaves that can be sold. When he loaded 1,100 Taino men, that would be so-called Puerto Ricans today, and women aboard the 4 Spanish ships, crowding and stormy Atlantic crossing took a fearful toll. Only 300 survived, but Columbus and Spain had decided to continue the profitable slave trade from the Americas. Seville became the slave capital of Spain. Okay? We're going to finish with this scripture. This is Galatians 6 and 7. All right? And it reads, be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So the so-called white man, who was Esau Edom, is now starting to reap what he sowed. Shalom and Abba Babal.